What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. It's ABC, the HPP, Adam Coleman, the Human Performance Project, and with me today I have my first interview and my first guest of the Human Performance Project so far, Josh Somo. So Josh is a coworker of mine. We both work for 24 Hour Fitness, but I must say before we start this video is in no way affiliated with 24 Hour Fitness. They do not share our views necessarily. It may be hard to believe, but Josh and I are not medical professionals. None of the stuff we talk about is meant to diagnose, prevent, treat, cure, or prevent, if I didn't say that already, any ailment, psychological, physical, spiritual, or otherwise. All right, so this is all for educational purposes. If you have questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to either email me at thehumanperformanceproject1, all one word with one numeral, at gmail.com, or simply just like and then comment on the video here. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Josh Somo. So Josh, tell us a little bit about who you are as a fitness professional, what certifications you hold, and how long you've been doing what you're doing.
All right, so I've been involved in health and fitness now for the last going on 8 years this summer. My background is in weightlifting. I worked with USA Weightlifting for quite a number of years.
So Olympic lifting?
Yeah, Olympic lifting, snatch and clean and jerk. I worked with a club down in San Diego called Team 40th. Okay. They also operated out of a CrossFit gym with Coach, if anybody's familiar with USA Weightlifting, Coach David Miller. He's the vice president of East Coast Gold. Okay. He's got some great athletes he's brought up. So my certifications are in strength and conditioning through USA Weightlifting. This is my first job as a personal trainer. Not to say that I haven't worked with people, right, but on a one-on-one basis, this is my first job as a personal trainer.
Well said.
Yeah. So my background, my approach is more from a performance end. Okay. Cool. That I don't view that as a great thing though sometimes, because performance is like a kind of a small portion of it, but I try to take what I know about performance and I try to scale it down, right, and apply it to the everyday person. Sure. Because my approach is everybody is the same, whether you're an elite athlete or it's your day one. Everybody needs their posture fixed, their gait fixed. Everybody has motor requirements that need to be fixed, movement patterns that need to be fixed. Mm-hmm. But if you're on the lower end of the scale, we might spend a longer time doing it. If we're on the higher end of the scale, we might just spend a few days doing it.
Yeah, and all those things really quick that Josh just mentioned as far as the postural issues and balances and such, those are things that a large portion of our society is unaware of, by and large, unless they're made aware by an unfortunate circumstance. So I kind of started for performance too, I guess. I wanted to be a better football player, better wrestler, and so explosiveness and strength was really my main concern, and then that kind of morphed at some point. So how far do you plan on taking your how far do you want to extrapolate your information? How big of the population would you like to really reach with your overall training goals as a businessman?
I'd like to reach everybody that's not an athlete. I worked with athletes for a long time, and I think the skill set I have, I think I've learned to adopt it more to people that aren't athletes, having worked with CrossFit athletes and recreational weightlifters. Okay. I would like to reach everybody that's not an athlete, because I think everybody deserves the right to move and feel comfortable in their body. And like when it comes to performance, that's what you're doing. You're making somebody more comfortable with their abilities. Right. And there's ways to approach that with everyday people.
Yeah. So in my opinion, Josh is a fantastic trainer. He's one of the best that I've seen in my 20 years in gyms now. Not that means anything, because it's just my opinion, but his education level coupled with his ability to connect with people and actually genuinely give a crap about their well-being long run is what separates him from most other trainers, I think. Not that trainers are malicious or do it intentionally. They just treat it as a job, and Josh is not here for a job. He's here to change lives. He's here to make people's lives better and learn in the process. So I very much appreciate your time today and being here, by the way. What do you think is you've already said it's an athletic background or performance background. When you approach a client, what's your focal point assuming there's no huge red flags you need to take care of? What's your approach when starting with a new client?
My approach is, one, I I try to find out what they think they need, and I give them that almost immediately.
So you listen.
Absolutely.
Great.
Right, because it's one thing for me to say this is what you need, and it's one thing for them to say this is what I need. So first thing I always focus on is giving them what they think they need.
Okay.
From there, I incorporate what I know they need, which is typically
different.
typically a lot different. I always focus on posture and gait mechanics first. Typically, you can really improve somebody's energy level if you can fix a shitty neck position.
That's crazy, but true.
Or like very protracted shoulders, tight hips, or even like the way they walk around, and they might be like a tiptoe walker where they're falling forward and catching themselves,
or a heel walker,
duck-footed, short steps, stepping too far. Right, I focus on that stuff first,
Awesome.
And then from there, I focus on strength. I believe strength is never a weakness, and when you work on strength, it's a lifetime pursuit. Cardio is great, but most people, in my opinion, or from what I've noticed, is they top out cardio fairly quickly, and they wonder, and they can't ever progress further in it. Whereas with strength, you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks minimum before you're making any type of change.
Right.
So strength is a really good way to reinforce proper motor patterns like squatting, deadlifting, pressing, pulling, right? It takes a long time, and not to mention, when you help somebody work on strength, it really helps them feel more comfortable with the things they're doing. It increases their mobility, especially in older clients, their ability to come off the floor.
Stability.
Exactly, and then even like the byproduct that we wouldn't think was strength is endurance. Because if you're not strong enough to lift your groceries, per se, right, and it wears you out to lift your groceries, you can come in and work with me and I can get you pulling 100, 200 pound deadlift for reps. All of a sudden that bag of groceries feels a lot lighter.
Yeah, it takes one
when
arm.
we really didn't improve your cardiovascular conditioning.
Sure.
We just proved your strength.
You know, that's a fantastic point. Especially, I feel like women with the goal of weight loss will overlook strength training and its importance in burning body fat and changing your body composition. You're not going to get bulky. Guys spend lots of money on hormones and food trying to get bulky. And ladies, if you just keep a certain type of training consistent in your diet clean, you're not going to get bulky, I promise. It's impossible physiologically. But where I was going with that, the cardiac output and the caloric rebound that happens after you lift weights, basically. So it doesn't seem like you would burn a lot of calories because you're not running, you're not moving, you're standing in one place, squatting up and down. How many calories can that burn? There's over 200 muscles involved in a correct barbell squat. So a lot is the answer to that question. Your systolic and diastolic blood pressure skyrocket, you know, and I'm not even going to throw numbers out there because it'll scare the crap out of you if you hear it. But it's amazing how your body has to adapt to weight training and not just the strength aspect. So thank you for bringing that up. Do you plan to compete in the future? Because you're really strong, and the fact that you're so specific in your training makes me think that if you really set a goal, like you could crush the meet, you know, if you really wanted to. So tell us about like your past experience with competition and if you plan to or not in the future and why, I guess.
So I probably don't plan on competing in weightlifting ever again.
Ever again?
Ever again.
Oh, okay.
I am only going to be 32, but I do have a lot of other obligations in my life. I'm going to be a father soon. I'm married. So I have a family to focus on, and I know what it takes to lift and be competitive.
Right.
And that is not just being in the gym and learning a skill and practicing. You are exhausted, especially when you're peaking for a weightlifting meet and you have to pull heavy singles or you're doing heavy doubles. You might be worn out for the next 3 or 4 days, and I know my wife's not going to appreciate something like that when we have a baby.
Yeah, and neither will you.
Yeah, exactly. I just got done pulling heavy singles the last 2 weeks, and I had to take 3 days off. So.
You know, I think we forget, like, only 32, I'm glad to hear that, because I just turned 35, and now I feel a little bit better about my age, but your central nervous system gets pounded from heavy training, whether it's hypertrophy or strength, and we don't really take that into consideration when we're 18, 21, because you just rebound quickly. But, you know, around 25, 30, you start to need a rest day, and you notice that you won't really make progress strength-wise, at least I don't, unless I give myself adequate reps. Like overtraining is an easy pitfall for me to get into. So
absolutely, and it buries itself deep in your central nervous system. Like a couple heavy lifts, like for example, a statistic about deadlifting is if you're well trained in the deadlift, every rep over 90% takes 21 days to recover from.
Really?
Yeah. So
wow.
you're looking to shake off some deep rooted central nervous system. Buried down in there, you're just taking one rep.
It's a residual effect. It's like delayed onset muscle soreness, basically. The cumulative buildup kind of takes a toll. But yeah, I just did power cleans again for the first time, probably since almost high school. And I broke it down into different parts of the lift so I could try to execute it better. The next day, even though I was using 60% probably of what I could max at this point, I was sore in places I forgot existed, and I just was beat down. I could tell my energy levels and stuff weren't really there. And it was a good feeling, but I could tell that it really taxed me. And because of the amount of repetitions I put out and being so used to hypertrophy training, it seemed kind of silly to me. It was like, are you that out of shape, or is it just that different? And it's just that different.
Absolutely.
So that's good to hear. I think I like your headset, your mindset of keeping a balance in life. And once you know what it takes to be competitive, it's a lock. You do it whenever you want to. That never leaves. Been passing that on to someone else, if you're anything like me, is awesome to see. So on that note, what advice would you give for someone, novice lifter, just getting into the gym, let's say for a teenager and also for like a 30-plus-year-old male? Would it be the same advice, and what is the main difference, I guess?
If you have no prior weightlifting training or no prior athletic training at all, I would say the biggest thing you need to do in the beginning is not train more than 3 days a week.
Okay, so slow and steady. Huh?
Slow and steady. There is a huge learning curve in the beginning of weightlifting, and you're going to respond exponentially to training in the beginning.
Right.
You get a lot of what we call the beginner gains.
Yeah,
in the first
the
2 or 3 years. Exactly. And you're going to like it, and you're going to want to chase it. But that quickly runs you into the ground.
Yeah. Good point.
A great lifter that I've worked with before, Jared Fleming, great USA weightlifting athlete. I only had a chance to work with him once when he dropped in, but my coach helped develop him at a young age. And he's competed for Team USA for weightlifting, but his training regimen when he was younger was he only lifted weights in the off season when he wasn't playing other sports.
So how long was that off season for him typically, do you know?
A month or two.
That's
right?
It.
And he used it just to stay in shape for lacrosse and football and and wrestling, I believe, was
so
what
just
he was doing.
auxiliary training, basically.
Exactly. And then as soon as he was out of high school and started training full time, he made a US team for weightlifting.
So just the rebound was that amazing.
Exactly. Okay. So you take it slow and steady. You should always feel in the beginning, you should always feel like you have a little more energy at the end of a workout than when you came in. Right, that's very important. It's not until you've trained significantly that you should feel beat down, because you have to put so much horsepower into your training to get those gains, because you're not getting those beginner gains.
Right. That's a really excellent point. Like being at about a 7 on your perceived exertion scale, leaving some gas in the tank and using it more for an endorphin boost and overall well-being than just pounding it. That's something that I'm guilty of all the time. I'm just a lover of self-punishment, I guess.
Yeah,
But
the big difference between an older client and a younger client is one, I would tell both to get adequate amount of sleep.
For sure.
But if you're younger, eat.
What's adequate sleep, first off?
So adequate sleep, first you need to look about when you're going to bed. So preferably before 10 p.m. Okay. I believe the research now suggests that it's not about how long you sleep. It's more important about when you go to sleep.
Really?
So as long as you're going to bed early enough, and then from there shooting to get over 7 hours of sleep. Anything less than 6, you're increasing your chance of risk of injury exponentially.
And reducing your physique exponentially, like cortisol, all this stuff goes up. We won't even get into that right now. But okay.
And then if you're a younger athlete, eat. You have a great opportunity going through, especially male weightlifters. You have a great opportunity of, you are essentially a little ball of HGH and anabolic steroids.
Yep.
Eat, improve your body composition, and then go heavy, and go heavy often when you're younger. Just don't train a lot, but go heavy when you're there.
Be purposeful and be smart.
Exactly. And when you're older, don't go heavy all the time. You might want to look into maybe getting a coach when you're older, someone that can periodize your training, so that when you are testing and you are going heavy, it's maybe only 2 or 3 times a year, and you're spending more of your time working in that intermediate range where you're building volume and consistency with maybe the same weight, if not maybe a little more weight week over week.
Just deviating the repetitions with a rest period or some other variable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
because young athletes can go heavy often. You still don't want to train them very frequently.
Yeah, so it's back to that country song. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. So you just got to be smart about where you put your max effort out as you get a little older, I guess. That is all advice that I think myself and anyone new out there can use. I mean, I've been around gyms and fitness for a long time, but I never cease to learn something, and it's amazing who I also pick little tidbits of knowledge up from. So again, thank you for sharing yours. And on that note, I feel like the greatest gift fitness has given me was a relief of anxiety and stress when I was a teenager. I was just a ball of nerves, and I found out real quick that the endorphin boost from working out really, really helped that, and it probably saved my life at a young age. But what do you think the greatest gift of fitness is that you've received and that you just see in general, I guess, if they differ?
The greatest gift for me is it gave me the gift of life. I mean, I wasn't typically very overweight. I was overweight very young. One thing that people don't know a lot about me is I was about as borderline type 2 diabetic at one point in my life as you can get.
Is that hereditary, the weight and the diabetes, or is that?
Yeah, my mom's side, they're very heavy, but I wasn't eating a great diet. I didn't really understand diet. I was just lifting heavy. But like through fitness, I gained a lot of mobility. I mean, I was the type of guy that couldn't get his arms over his head and get into a deep squat at one point.
So that behind the head tricep stretch was out of the question.
Yeah, exactly. So like just lifting weights and going through my journey in fitness, I learned how to improve my mobility. I learned how to improve my diet, learned how to improve my overall health. And I avoided having to take insulin and be on things like metformin and things that you have to be on the rest of your life once you start.
A lot of times you do.
So it gave me the gift of life, and I like to say that like fitness and lifting weights like really saved that for me, because I could have just been another statistic when it comes to that. The biggest thing I see it do for people is it improves their mental health. A lot of us have this built up energy in our body from not moving and from not working hard, and a lot of people,
all the stimulus,
yeah, exactly. I think a lot of times I feel like people don't struggle and know how to overcome things.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Right? And weightlifting is a really good way to lift something, struggle with it, and then be like, damn, I got that.
Yep.
I want to try more now, right? I want to struggle a little more to get there. So it's a really easy way to get little wins in your life and get out some of that angst that maybe people are have built up,
and improve your self-esteem in the meantime and your quality of life.
Absolutely.
Dude, what I got a lot from this interview today. Being comfortable in your own body, the journey of fitness, which is completely individual, and basically just overall having a plan that's appropriate to you, I think would be the 3 takeaway points that I at least heard personally loud and clear, and that will apply to me, clients, family, whoever we're really talking about. So, Josh, do you have any questions for me or anything you want to add before we wrap this up? Because I know you have to get back to work and I need to work out.
No, it was actually a pleasure. I hope we can do this again at some point.
Yeah, thank you.
And if like Adam said, like if you could take anything away from this, it's get a coach, get it personalized for you, and then even on those days when it might seem hard and you don't want to come in, those are the most important days to get into the gym.
It's only 2 times you need to go to the gym: when you want to and when you don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, maybe not that extreme, but yeah, thank you guys. If it's your first time watching this channel, please come back, subscribe, like, comment, email me. I'm always up for suggestions on topics or on guests or anything that you'd like to hear about, Fill me in on some of your personal stories, some of your personal journeys, and how they're individualized to you. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch myself and Josh. This is Adam Coleman, the ABC, the HPP. See you next time.